In August of 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till was abducted and lynched for the perceived crime of insulting a white woman. This is his story. Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with all that being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Till. As always, it's a donation reward for Venom, and is the last movie in our monthly movie week for this month with our theme of Black History, and is the reason I chose this theme. The story of Emmett Till is one of the most important stories probably in American history. And definitely for the civil rights movement. It is a story of a teenage boy who was violently and horrifically murdered for, let's be honest, no fucking reason. Because racism. Because a white woman saw him look at her or something and assumed, because of bullshit racism, the worst or whatever. And ever since, his story has been insanely important for the civil rights movement in America. And it is one of the hardest stories to ever hear about. And partially because of the horrific, evil racism that caused the murder to happen in the first place. Partially because, if I remember right, his murderers got off. They were acquitted of the crime. But also because of his mother, who had to live with this afterwards, who had to fight to try and make things better and right afterwards. It's like, just starting this video, I've already teared up. I've already gotten very emotional because this is a story that hurts. Because it's real. And it's not an isolated incident. Emmett Till was not the only person to be murdered in this way for this lack of reason. And you know, he wasn't even the only kid who was murdered for this. Because reminder, this was a 14-year-old child. And he was abducted and lynched for no reason. And it's something that can never be taken back. And racism like this, violent racism, still unfortunately happens to this day. In 2026, it still happens. Now it just goes under the name of ICE and MAGA and whatnot. It's going to be hard for me to get through this, but I'm doing this for that reason. I've never obviously seen this movie. I don't know the full context of everything. And I don't know exactly what this movie is going to show, how brutal it's going to be, or how accurate to the real story it's going to be, etc., but it's one of those stories that needs to be told and needs to be seen over and over again because people aren't fucking getting it. And it's like, it shames me to know what white people have done to people of color throughout history and still do. And as a white person, it is my duty, my requirement, to not only acknowledge my privilege in that I don't have to face that because of the color of my skin, but it is my duty to also actively fight, campaign, and speak against horrific shit like that. It is not okay to just stand back and let things happen. It's not okay to just to stay quiet to avoid confrontation. As non-confrontational as I tend to be, it's something that I can't hold my tongue on. And again, like, the reason I did this, the reason I did this theme for the movie week this month was because I wanted to do this movie and I wanted to highlight these voices. Voices that aren't my own and that I can't, like, speak for. But voices that need to be heard. And this movie was always going to be the final movie. Like, trying to figure out the rest of the lineup for this week, this movie was always going to be the final one. Because this is the one that I wanted this week to lead up into. So, that being said, we're going to get into this and we're going to listen. We're going to watch and we're going to learn. Because this is a message that needs to be understood. So let's do this. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Welcome to the Afterthoughts. We'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I want to apologize for a couple things before anything. I want to apologize for the issues that we were having with my computer throughout at multiple points in the movie, whether it be the internet randomly cutting out and causing like a serious lag and shit, or the issues with my power cord, or whatever else. Just any and all issues that were happening over the course of this, I apologize for. Um, I also want to apologize that I didn't really. I was very quiet and I didn't really react as much to this as I might have to like other movies this week or just in general. Because, as I said in the reaction, like, what do you say towards this? How do you react in the way of like reacting to a movie or a show or something on you know a YouTube video and whatnot? How do you do that in response to this outside of just anger, crying, just seething? That's what I ended up doing because that's how a lot of my emotions came out through this. And going into this, it's like knowing the story and knowing where this was going to a point. Like I didn't know all the details of everything that happened. I didn't know like exactly how things went down. I knew that the guys got away from this. I knew that they got off free, and I I knew there was no actual justice for Emmett Till. It's a big active point within the civil rights movement, and I didn't know all the history of the other characters in this and other aspects of like the family, specific aspects about Mamie and her life. And so there were definitely some things within this that I learned and that I have heard for the first time. And the big point of that is that this was the story through the eyes of Mamie. This was her story specifically. The story of a mother whose son was murdered, lynched because he happened to say something to a white woman. Which, by the way, when she was lying on the stand like that completely, like every single word that came out of her mouth was a fucking lie. It's like, oh Jesus. I got really pissed in that moment. Like that was probably the angriest I got in the movie. When she was lying about everything. Like lying, saying he was like holding her down and saying I've been with a white woman before and shit like that. And it's just like, oh my God. Like there are those times where and it's not I'm not like saying this towards the actress, of course. She's just an actress, but there are times where you want to reach through a screen and choke a bitch out. Where you just like where you're so invested in the story and you're so like deeply like hurt by everything you're seeing and hearing that it's like the character almost becomes real for you. But to be fair, this was a real person who also was never, prosecuted, never faced any repercussions for her actions either. It's one of those things where you watch a movie like this that is so based in reality, and it, because of the subject material, because of the deep pain of it, the horrific evil that was, that was enacted by those men. It's like it's hard to it's hard to find the words sometimes. And that's why I was like so quiet, because it's like most of the time I was like, when not dealing with any issues we were having, or not like crying, because I was crying throughout this entire movie, I was seething in sorrow, in rage, just all kinds of negative emotions. And you may have noticed during the entire thing, like, I didn't wipe my tears, and this is something that I kind of like almost silently do in certain cases. And I don't think I've talked about this before, but whenever like a movie or piece of media in general is touching on a subject like this, and not even just this specifically, but anything like that heavy, and especially something, that really happened, I try not to wipe away those tears like I would in like an ordinary sad scene in another like fictional movie or whatnot. I specifically actively try not to wipe away those tears, because those tears need to be shed, and those tears need to like stick with me. Wiping them away feels like I'm trying to like calm myself down, but I don't want to calm myself down in situations like this. I want to feel all of that emotion. And so I let the tears fall, and I let them just stay falling. I don't wipe them away. I don't like hide that emotion, because it needs to be shown. Because, as I said in the pre-thoughts, but for those of you who are watching on Patreon and didn't see the pre-thoughts, this is important, and as a white person, it is my duty, it is my requirement to be on the right side of history here. I understand my privilege, and I have to choose to actively like fight for and speak out for the rights of people of color who go through this shit. Even up to this point in 2026, I was so shocked. I was so shocked and upset by the fact that the anti-lynching act, the Emmett Till anti-lynching act, wasn't put into place until fucking 2022, fucking 4 fucking years ago. How? How the fuck was that not put into place until then? That just makes no sense to me. Mamie died in 2003. That was not put into play until like almost 20 fucking years after her death. What did it say? 65 years after Emmett? Something like that? How the fuck was that not put into place sooner? What the fuck is wrong with people? Despite everything, despite the civil rights movement that happened, despite Black Lives Matter and everything, that still hadn't been put through until fucking 2022. How? It's insane to me that in 2026, this current year, we still face these kinds of problems. And our fucking government is fucking funding it. We have state-sponsored shit like this going on with the fucking ICE raids and all this horrible shit. And it's like, I don't fucking get it. How at this point in time, I don't understand how racism still exists. You remember that Tales from the Hood short from the other day when we reacted to Tales from the Hood 3 as part of this movie week? Remember the one segment of it where it's like the racist guy was kept in a zoo, a human zoo, as a endangered species because racists are seen as animals, as monsters, not as human? Why is that not the norm? Why is that not the case? Not necessarily that specifically, but you get the idea. Why are racists not an endangered species, quote unquote? Why are they not fucking, like, practically non existent anymore? Why is it still so common that a fucking rapist racist gets elected 2 fucking times? Sorry, I just. This gets me very heated. For a few reasons. The most obvious just being because it should get anyone heated. Anyone not getting heated by this is fucking horrible. You would have to be some kind of psychopath or sociopath or what the fuck ever to not get upset by this shit. But on top of that, and I've talked about this before, I also get heated about shit like this. I get so angry about shit like this because of the way I was raised. And not in the way you're thinking. Because I was raised in a way that made me bigoted. I was never racist. Like, I never, thankfully, was that bigoted. But, like, I was raised in a way that, like, I was raised to be a bigot. In so many manners. Especially in terms of queer phobia. And I had to be told that my lines of thinking were wrong. That I had been homophobic, transphobic, misogynist, etc., etc. And I had to not only be told this, but I had to learn. And I had to actually put forth effort to change myself. Because I saw how my actions were hurting people. I saw that my actions, my words were causing people pain. And thankfully, I had friends who called me the fuck out on it. And you know what I did? I didn't double down like a fucking jackass. I listened. I changed myself. And it was hard. It is hard to change social conditioning that you are pushed into from the time you are a child. It is difficult, but it is worth it. Being a better person is always fucking worth it. Because being a racist, a misogynist, a transphobe, a homophobe, just an absolute piece of fucking shit cunt there is no positive reason, no good reason to be any of that. And any fucking asshole out there who gets called out and just chooses to double down or just chooses to stick with all of that because it's more convenient for them, fuck you. Shit like this happens because of people like you. People who choose not to speak out because you're afraid. The time to be afraid is fucking over. It's 2026. We cannot let this shit stand anymore. And don't get me fucking wrong. I'm afraid. I'm very afraid for this nation, for these people, for this world. Being afraid isn't even the issue. The issue is when you're too afraid to actually stand up and you refuse to take action because you let your fear control you. That's more of the issue than actually being afraid, because everyone's fucking afraid. Everyone's afraid of something. Being afraid is normal, it's a human emotion. But if you let that fear control you, and if you choose to let that fear control you, then fuck you. Especially when it comes to shit like racism and xenophobia and transphobia, all of that. Bigotry. And I'm not saying you have to go out and march at every single protest. You can do a lot from your home, on your computer. Speak out. That's all you need to do. Going to marches and stuff like that, cool, that's great as well. You could do that. I support that. I encourage that. But you don't need to. If you're unable to get out there, if you, for one reason or another, then you can still act. You can still speak out. So just fucking do so. This movie was very intense, and it didn't even show as much as it could have. It didn't show the lynching itself. It only showed an outside view with you hearing some of the sounds. But again, this was about the aftermath. This was about Mamie. Her reaction and her becoming a civil rights leader through necessity because of her and her son not being able to get the justice deserved. There's almost a side of me that said that feels like if it did show the lynching, it would have taken away a little bit from the point of the film being Mamie's perspective. And there's been other media that's showcased more of that. Like, I believe Tales from the Hood 2 actually showed a bit of it. Because one of the segments in that movie touched on Emmett Till. It's one of those things where it's just this is a movie that's a hard watch, and it gets me obviously extremely emotional. But with everything that this movie is about and everything it stands for, and just you also have the phenomenal directing, and like the actress who played Mamie, oh my god, every single bit of emotion on her face made me like cry or be about to cry. Her expressive acting is so next level. Like oh my god. That she is a phenomenal actor. This movie is incredibly important. It's an essential film. And I'm not one to always say that people should see a film, because I think people should watch what they want to watch. But this is one of those movies I think everybody should watch. One of those few movies that I do think should be considered essential viewing. It's that important. And so I do, at least on this initial impression, consider this to be on my list of perfect films. It's probably a film I would never be able to watch again due to how intensely emotional it is. But it is a movie that I have found through this viewing no flaws in. And I think is that important and that essential, that perfect of a film. I don't know exactly where I would rank it compared to other films on that list right now. That's going to take thought. But I consider it to be part of that list. Because with a film with this message, these themes, this real life situation, and with the way that it portrayed this, the way it showcased this, the emotion it elicited out of me, the intensity of every single moment of it. How could I not see it as perfect? So that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts on this movie down in the comments below. And on top of that, we need to announce the theme for next time. I'm not going to forget this time. I'm actually remembering. We're going to announce the theme for next month's movie week, which let me get up my calendar here to make sure I get the dates right. So the next movie week will be technically for the month of March. And as a reminder, for those who are watching on Patreon, you get it during the month, and those on YouTube get it the week after. So it will be for those on Patreon, you will be getting the next movie week on March 23rd through 27th. Once again, as always, Monday through Friday, Monday the 23rd through Friday the 27th. And those of you on YouTube, it will be Monday, March 30th through Friday, April 3rd. So it'll still technically be partially in March. In terms of like that, if you want to count that. I know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, once again, for Patreon, the next monthly movie week will be Monday, March 23rd through Friday, March 27th. And for YouTube, it's Monday, March 30th through Friday, April 3rd. Now, as for the theme, there's definitely a couple themes that I've been thinking through, a couple things that I felt like we could have gone with. And I think that the theme I want to go with here is going to be supernatural. We are going to be having movies dealing with the supernatural, and more specifically, supernatural horror. So that means no serial killer horror or whatnot. Nothing like that. It's going to be specifically horror based around the supernatural. I think it's a fun theme. It's a fun idea. And I think that it'll be like a really interesting set, because horror is also, I have the most movie requests for that out of any genre, because most movie requests are done through Venom, and Venom tends to really like horror. Which, fair enough, I do too. So I thought we should probably whittle those down a little bit specifically. And I felt like supernatural horror would be a very specific way to do that. And just as a specification for this, supernatural does not mean aliens or anything. I'm talking the likes of ghosts. I'm talking the likes of um, werewolves or vampires, stuff like that. No aliens. Monster movies can be counted for that. Those can be counted for supernatural, but like ghosts and demons and whatnot, that kind of stuff would count for supernatural. No, aliens would be more like cosmic horror or something like that. And again, no serial killers, unless it like combines serial killing with supernatural. You get the gist, I feel. But yeah, I that will be again next month. I don't know what movies I'm gonna exactly pick for yet. I've still got to choose that. But you'll just have to wait and see. Regular movie reactions will continue this next week. They will continue to be on Saturdays and Sundays. It's just during movie weeks that the monthly movie weeks that we have them during Monday through Friday instead. So starting again next week, there will be normal 2 movie reactions per week on Saturday and Sunday, along with all normal series reactions and whatnot continuing as they have been. But that all being said, thank you so much once again for tuning in. Once again, let me know your thoughts down below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.